And we are live. Welcome to the EXP Probate Group, or National Group of Probate Experts and Aspiring Experts. I'm Bill Gross. I put in Workplace the link to Zoom if you want to come in live into Zoom as well as another option. That you can participate and chat and ask questions. I'll do my best to check the chat box in Workplace, which falls a little bit behind. Can't find the link for the meeting. Okay, well, there you go. Look for the link. And so anyhow, welcome to our call today. So I talked about one of my premises or thesis of my business is that I think most companies that sell real estate probate training sell data and coaching in one of only really two areas. Usually they'll sell you data for cold calling attorneys, and the other one is they'll sell you data cold calling petitioners. And I say that I don't know that's necessarily appropriate for most agents. I think it's probably not for brand new agents, because you need to learn how to list and sell regular property before more complicated like probate. Though I'm glad to work with agents, and I think if you have somebody on your team that can split the deal with you, perhaps that's another way to go. But I teach there's actually 9 other ways to get business, and number 6 of the 11 ways is the court confirmation, sales, and auctions. And I think that also, as a buyer's agent, occasionally agents come across these properties and get confused, and so I want to maybe work on this today to help buyers agents understand the process and be more effective when they do come across these properties. So what I will say is that it's not a quick fix. You still have to work hard, you have to be consistent, you have to follow up, and you have to learn and improve all the time. My name is Bill Gross. I'm a real estate broker, been in real estate since 1986. I've been in mortgage and real estate. I've been in sales, management, executive, and owner. I've been probate focused a little over 2.5 years. I sat down with my sponsor, EXP, and coach, Don Hobbs, and I really got clear on the power of picking one niche and focusing on it. And so all my lead generation has been focused on that for 2.5 years. I've taken a number of certifications. I say take them all. I've taken every one that I know of. And I think that if you know of another one I missed, but MTI, allleads.com, I think is the best of all of them. I've taken 3 or 4 others. Kevin Sales. I say that I am always looking to learn more, and oftentimes in the class, 90% of it won't be appropriate for me, but I'll pick up a nugget or two, and those nuggets can be worth thousands of dollars. And then my other thing was I was challenged in one of the coaching to go to court and actually see it in process. Now this was pre-COVID. I went and I was very impressed with the opportunity in front of me, and I went for about a week, and then I committed to going for a month. And then I committed to going every day. My lead generation was literally going to court every day in Los Angeles. Now, I'm lucky in that that's the biggest court, or probate court in America. And we have 9 different courtrooms. And so there's always kind of something happening at that time slot. But as a result, during that time period, I've seen more sales than any attorney, any agent, or any judge. Because I was seeing on average 2 a day. And even a prolific real estate agent might not do even, but at most 1 a week, probably not even that many. So before we start, again, we have to apply the fundamentals. So your mindset comes before money. It makes sure your mindset's correct, that you understand the business is going to be a long haul, and that you understand that in all of real estate, the average from the lead generation to getting paid, on average, is 2 years. Now, that doesn't mean we can't get leads right away that sell, but we're working towards that long tail. And I refer to the Zig Ziglar water pump story where he talks about the power. Jane, I see your question. I'm going to get away for just 1 second here. There's only 2 things that generate business. One's invest time, the other is invest money. And so when you start off, you typically don't have money to invest. You got to invest your time. And so you better spend your time talking and meeting people. Real estate is a contact business, and it's a numbers game. You got to talk to a lot of people and keep track of your numbers. And where you come from is important. Who are you and what value you're creating in building a relationship with somebody. And then lastly, I'd say the solution You want to be the solution to all things real estate. So when you meet people, if you approach anybody, an attorney, a petitioner, investor, I'm just a realtor, can I list your house? You're just one of a million realtors in America that could list a house and put cookies in the oven. But when you're a specialist in solving problems, you become a valued people who come across problems or anticipate them. And so I would say that the title is often the problem, probate is the solution. People go to probate because they're not empowered to do what they want with the property. They need to change who's empowered, who's entitled to the property, so they can sell the property or refinance it or whatever they want to do. And then just a real quick summary again, I go to this every week, but what does that look like? Well, problems are like grandma, grandpa left me the property. I don't know what to do with it. It's not in my name. My siblings and I are fighting over the property. Maybe it's in probate, they're fighting. The property's supposed to be in trust, but it's not. That's a problem we gotta learn how to solve. And we started probate, but got stuck. These are all common problems that I love to find people because the solutions are pretty simple. If grandma and grandpa left the property, you have to help them through probate. You got to probate the property to change title. Maybe lend them money or advance the money for attorney's expenses. If siblings are fighting, you better find the right attorney to help represent them in what's going to be litigation. And it's not just an attorney and not a civil attorney. You need a probate litigation attorney in Los Angeles, especially. The property is supposed to be trust, but it's not. In California, we have a process called a Hegstead petition. An attorney or service can help you create a document to the court to say, hey, this was supposed to be in the trust, it's not. If the court approves it, now you're back in the trust. And we started probate, got stuck, learned how to help people solve the problem. I had a case where I saw another agent and I met their client, and they had been in process for 2 years because their attorney, while he might be a great guy, was well educated, went to Harvard Law, he didn't know that he could change the estate from limited authority to full authority with just one document. And they did that. They got the house sold. They've been hung up for 2 years. Literally, the client was crying over because he needed the money. So again, we're looking for problems, and these are the solutions. And so you can learn all those possibilities, or if I can help you, if you have a problem case, I'm glad to help. One of the things I offer to agents is, if it's a listing and it's complicated, you might consider co-listing with me. Let me teach you while we have the listing. And that way you can get paid as well as learn the business and close a probate. Okay, so there's 11 ways to get a sale in probate, and we're going to talk today about court confirmation sales and auctions. Very misunderstood process. So let me just back up for a second and say, what is court confirmation sales and auctions? In California, there are two basic tracks. Most of the time, an estate has what's called full authority. They can sell the property with very minimal court interference or overview. Maybe they have to file a form telling the world that they're selling the property and give them time, 15 or 30 days, to object. If they don't object, then they're done. But other than that, they can list when they want, they can sell it for how much they want to who they want. As long as nobody complains, as long as nobody objects, as long as none of the heirs or creditors are being cheated, it's going to go through. 10% of the time or 5% of the time, for various reasons, the court says you can't sell a property without court approval. And usually that's because the executor is out of state. LA is particularly tight on this, other counties not so much. Could be that the executor or petitioner, the person filing for the probate, isn't creditworthy, can't get a bond. There's ways to solve that problem. But if they can't get a bond is like an insurance policy that the court gets, makes the petitioner pay for, to make sure that if any money is absconded, they're covered, so they can afford to pay all the creditors and pay the taxes. So oftentimes, petitioners will mistakenly say, oh, I'll save money in the bond, so I'll go for limited authority and not have a bond. Don't realize that will cost them money on trying to sell the property, more money by far. But anyhow, about 40 or 50 cases a month get sold in Los Angeles County with court confirmation. Smaller numbers in other counties. Jim, I see 2 questions. I'm going to get to them. I promise. So number one is know the rules. A lot of misunderstanding about what the rules are in court sales. So the rules, and the way I learned the rules was going to court and watching, going online and reading. I bought the probate code book and read it. I bought several books on it and read it. and took some certification classes. I don't think one class is going to get you there. A brief summary of the process is when they list the property for sale, then they offer it for sale publicly. If you need court confirmation in Los Angeles, you need to set a date about 3 weeks out and publish a classified ad that details the particulars of the sale. And you can't accept the offer before that date, the end of that 3-week period. And you publish in this particular type of newspaper. And at the end of the time, then you can accept a contract. Now, at that point, the buyer does not have to be waiving all contingencies, unless that's how you set it up. And at that point, the buyer does not have to have 10% down. The buyer can have 3% down like a normal EMD and can have a normal contingency period when you accept the contract, and then they go through the process. And then at some point, the buyer will waive all contingencies and raise their deposit to 10% of the purchase price. Now, the reason why the state does that is then they file for court confirmation. They have to wait at least 30 days, sometimes longer. You want the buyer locked in. At the same point, though, you don't want to chase a good buyer out. Sometimes the states will accept 5% deposit, sometimes 3%. All that's depending on what the estate wants, and that's all negotiable. That's all agreeable by all the parties at that point. However you publicize the sale, though, are the rules you have to live by. And then once you establish the contract and file with the court, the buyer has to live up to those rules. The reason why you might want to make it to 10% is that way you would make any other bidder coming in have to match that number. And so the most common number is 10%. And that way, when a bidder comes to court, they're putting up non-contingent as well, 10%, if that's the number you set, cashier's check of that day. Well, how many buyers will back out after putting up 10% cash and waiving all contingencies? Very few. That's why those rules are that strict. But again, one of the biggest mistakes agents make is imposing those rules on what I call the original buyer. The original buyer doesn't have to start that way. They can start with a 3% and raise it to 10% when they're ready to waive their contingencies. So you got to know the rules. You got to show up that day. If you want to buy the property and overbid, show up that day with a cashier's check made out to the estate. It has to be made out properly, or else you're not going to be able to bid. And oftentimes the attorney is trying to push out bidders because they're in cahoots with the listing agent or in cahoots with the buyer. So you have to know the rules. There's a lot to this. We're not going to go into a lot of detail. I think I gave you a high-level overview. But you need to know what those rules are. Number two, you want to go regularly to learn. You want to learn the process, learn who the attorneys are, learn who the judges are in your area, the clerks in the court. I'm right now I'm looking to form a national team in different counties with a team leader whose job it is help coordinate this. But in the long run, if this is your business, if you're really going to make this your focus, you want to learn the various parties so that you can learn the rules and use those to your advantage. The process, what's that look like? So for example, I'll give you a little known fact. Property goes to court, buyer's in at $500,000. The minimum overbid is $525,000, $500,000. Maybe it's way below market. You bring an investor in. They bid $525,000, $500,000. Buyer and your investor go back and it ends up selling for $600,000. Little known fact in California Probate Code, all of the overbid commission goes to you. 5% of the $100,000 or $5,000 all goes to you or your company, not split with a listing agent. It's a difference of $2,500. I had an agent teach me that, and I've already collected in the last 12 months probably 4 or 5 times that differential. But I know the process. I've had attorneys try to push me out because my buyer didn't have certain documents. Well, you're not required to. The law just says you show up with a cashier's check and show up and ready to bid. The law also says, though, that the state can make its own determination of what's to protect itself. So you want to get along with the attorney. That's why I go to court, even though I can show up on video. I want to go in person, hopefully to meet the attorney, and if not, to show the attorney that I'm serious, and the judge as well. I think the judge responds properly as well. You want to meet the attorneys. Now, pre-COVID, I met attorneys by going to court regularly, bumping into them, calling them on the phone, asking for coffee and lunch, watching them work in court, calling them afterwards to follow up. I made that part of my business. The judges, they're all different. In LA, we have a bar association. I'm an affiliate member, and they've had different events where you can meet the judges and see how they act. But I've been in court hundreds of times and seen all the judges probably 50 times. And they all are idiosyncratic. They have their little pluses and minuses, things they do and things they don't do a little different. You want to learn those. I've been able to say, an attorney, not only can you do this, I saw that done by Judge so-and-so, which is your department, in the past. I was there on another case, and I got the judge to agree to whatever it was, selling the property at less than, I'll give you an example. The probate code says that when they do the sale court confirmation, they can't sell it for less than 90% of the court's appraisal. The court does what's called an inventory and appraisal form by a probate referee. And so if the property is appraised by the court at $500,000, it can't be sold for less than $450,000. Well, I've done it. I've had judges approve at $430,000 or $420,000 because we're in foreclosure. We were in escrow, and the buyer discovered black mold, and my judge made the case, and the judge approved it. Not every time, but being there in person, being a regular, learning the process, learning the judge made it possible. Learn the clerks. I listen oftentimes on trainings online, and they'll say, go meet the clerks. Very hard to do. They're not interested in talking. They're very busy. They feel they're busier than they really are, and they're very hard. But when you get a chance to, you always want to show them that you respect their work. Like, for example, I always show up with business cards, the name of not the name of the case, but the court number. In Los Angeles, they assign a number each day for the court item that you're on, like 1001, 1002. I put that on my card, give it to them so they have it, write the name of my client down. So they have everything in writing for me to make their job easier. Whatever they ask, I jump on right away. And I've learned to do that to develop goodwill with the clerks. And the court, learn where the court layout is, where their rooms are, where to park, all those kinds of things. Also, I would say teach investors the process. I've been able to bring investors to buy property. It's been a great way to develop listings because I get an investor to buy a property and they fix and flip and sell it, and I represent them on the sale. And so just in short version, you need to bring 10% of what you're going to bid on in cashier's check made out to the estate, most commonly. They have to be ready to close 10 days after the original court order is signed. Now, in some counties, you go to court and get approval, and the court administrator prints the form, judge signs it, you walk out the door with it. That's San Bernardino. LA, not. LA, they'll make the attorney prepare the form. 90% of the time, the form's rejected, has to get resubmitted 2 or 3 times. That could take 30 days. And then the judge signs it, and then you have 10 days from that date. So I tell investors, typically, we're going to be closing 30 days after the court date. But it doesn't have to be that way. And the attorney, if they have the order prepared and turn it in that day, will save some time. So again, 10% of the overbid. So if the overbid is $525,500, you have to have a cashier's check for $52,500. It should be made out to the state most commonly. Sometimes they put rules. They want it made out to escrow. And it might be to your advantage to make it to escrow. Because obviously, if there's a conflict and you're canceling the escrow, if the money's made to the state, they can put it right in their bank account. They can get the money back. You can't. But if the money is made to deposit to escrow, you both have to agree to release the money, and you have a little more power. So I generally tell my clients, it's better to make it to escrow than it is to the estate. Sometimes the estate doesn't have a bank account. In fact, I would say most of the time. And so when you win, you hand the check to the attorney. In my experience, over half the time, the attorney gives you back the check and says, give it to your client and have him wire money to escrow. And the buyer, for whatever reason, now his money is available, whatever that might mean. You can imagine. And be ready to close 10 days after the original court order is received. And again, varies by county. In California, in LA, that's on average about 30 days. In San Bernardino, it's 10 days after the court hearing. And you have to be ready to close. You have to tell investors, this is not a wholesale deal, it's not signable. Now, they can put it in an LLC and sell the LLC if they want. but they can't change the vesting is done at court because that goes in the court order. And so there's no assignment process other than selling an LLC if that's how your investor operates. Okay, so to wrap up, what I would say is this is a great opportunity if you find a property, and this is what I tell brand new agents. As you're looking for properties, you find one that needs court confirmation, call me on it. I'd be glad to review this. I'll send you the video. Again, you can watch it. And sometimes I've had buyer's agents that want me to split the deal with them and go to court with them or for the client. And I think it's a great opportunity. In fact, your buyer buys a property and I tell them you handle them on the listing side and your buyer would be happy. But they have to be ready to go and they have to understand the process. Okay, a couple questions I see from Jamie. What do you say to attorneys you meet at court? Well, Jamie, it's no different than door knocking in a neighborhood. I'm looking to establish a relationship. So sometimes I'll ask them questions about their cases. Sometimes I'll remark on what I saw. Sometimes I'll invite them for coffee. The goal is to establish a relationship. The goal is not to ask for referrals. I never ask for business for somebody. I much rather ask them to begin the relationship together. So what do I say? It varies. When it's a matter that I'm on, I always go to court, hoping the attorney will be there so I can meet them. And there's always a waiting time. Just the nature of court, you're always waiting around for the judge to do something. And I find that the opportunity to meet the attorney invaluable. So, and then while you're in the hallways, other attorneys walk by and see you, and that's invaluable. How do you use myself? I'm Bill Gross with eXp Realty. I'm a probate expert. I specialize in this business. Now, I will say that I dress like attorneys. Big mistake I think most realtors make is they dress like realtors. And I get it's hot, you door knock, whatever. But when I go to court, I wear a dark suit, white shirt, silk tie. I have a special briefcase that's the kind the attorneys have that's on rollers. Everything is black, very conservative. I even have 2 sets of business cards. One I call my realtor cards with my picture on it, eXp logo and such. And the other one's like attorneys cards. If you ever met attorneys, their cards are always black and white, very simple. And those are the ones I give to attorneys because I want them to think that I'm like them. Okay, so we covered a lot that I meant to so far on this topic. Jamie gave me a couple questions. Thank you very much. I don't see any other questions from anybody. Jamie, you there? Did you have any other questions?
Yes. With the 10% deposit, isn't that with just limited authority, and with full authority, it's only 3%?
Well, let me just clarify a little bit. Full authority most commonly doesn't go to court at all. It's whatever, it's like any other multiple listing service listing or any other listing. So whatever you negotiate. So generally speaking, most common deposits 3%, but some sellers want more and some buyers are able to negotiate less on regular transactions. On court confirmation, initially, again, listing agents mistakenly will say when it comes to the MLS, you have to put 10% down as EMD. That's not legally required. And they really don't understand the process when they do that. That's my opportunity to call them and say, by the way, just FYI, you don't need the 10% until you're ready to file the petition with the court. So we're going to put 3% down now, and we'll raise it to 10% when we waive contingencies. And again, if they're open-minded, they're willing to learn, my job is to try to teach them. And I've had agents accept that, and we got our offer accepted because of that. So the 3%, the full authority can be whatever, like any other transaction, and the limit authority, the court confirmation. Generally speaking, you don't need anything other than normal until you're waiving contingencies, and then most commonly it's raised to 10%. And then to walk in a court, you almost always have to have 10%. That's your question?
And then, yes. And then 90% of the appraised value,
Right.
Is that only with court confirmation sales?
Correct. And I've heard people mistakenly say that applies to other sales, and it doesn't. So on regular sales, non-court confirmation sales, the only really limitation is the state, to get title insurance, has to file a motion of proposed action. notice of proposed action. We're going to sell the house for $500,000 to Mary and Jim Smith and close within 30 days. And they file it. Anybody who's on that case gets a copy of that filing. So if you're an heir or a creditor or the state of California for taxes or IRS for taxes, you get notified. And as long as nobody objects, the sale's going to go through on a full authority. Sometimes there's heirs that say, whoa, 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 you're selling it too cheap. We think it's worth more. And then they'll go to court and object to the sale, perhaps. And if the judge agrees, might force a court confirmation sale. At court confirmation sale, the process is when they file, they're saying that we accept an offer from whoever at this price, and that it is 90% of the appraised value, and the appraised value was $600,000, and 9% is $540, and we sold the property for $540. Oftentimes they don't yet have the appraisal, and they're filing that, and the appraisal comes in, imagine this, too high, which means that they need to sell the property for more. It happens all the time. The listing agents look at this as being really too easy. They want to double end it. They're selling it to an investor on the cheap. It turns out the appraisal is higher and it's too low to justify being sold. That happens a lot. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, not seeing any or hearing any. I'm Bill Gross, and so I'm a broker with EXP in Los Angeles, California. I do this call for EXP agents Mondays at 10 o'clock a.m. in the workplace. And I do another one, probateweekly.com, every Thursday at 4 for real estate agents and investors, wholesalers, petitioners, occasional attorneys. I'd love to have you join me for that as well. If you like this video, if it's helpful at all, please like it, comment it, share it. And we also put this into YouTube. And thank you for supporting the YouTube channel. Thumbs up if you like it, and subscribe and all those good things. So I'm Bill Gross. I'm available in Workplace. If you have any questions, give me a call. Jamie, thank you for being on the call today. It was fun having you.